Hello again. This is Nick Roach. Again, it's a lovely day. We're outside. Hear the birds. I'd like to talk a bit about a state or experience beyond what I've come to understand as being called liberation or no self. In my autobiography, the section before the end is entitled Liberation, and I describe entering the state some 8 years or so after enlightenment or self-realization, and I explain how it was given to me, how I explored it, how I experienced it, step by step. And that was 5 years ago now. And that involved a centre which until that time I wasn't aware was there inside me, evaporating and disappearing. And that marked the start of this latest phase for me, where life became simpler and began to flow. And I described it really as just being. Birds singing. Being, not anything particular, just being. And that was that. Then the very last section I called What's Next, the last chapter in the book. And I said I didn't know. I said that. One can look at other teachers that have gone before, some of the great masters, and read of their works and what they said they experienced towards the end, and get an idea as to what happens next. But as everyone's path is different, everyone's experiences and journey different, and the way the mind interprets the same experiences can be so different, that really one can just go with it and see what happens. But something happened to me recently, and I wanted to mention it. I was advised that there was something beyond what I understood to be liberation or no self. I was in this space of being, where I was just enjoying life. And the other week I did a video entitled I Am Everything and I Am Nothing. And I explained the two polarities, where for me I'd spent so many years focusing on the space, the I within me, understanding, knowing that was me, my original state, that when that space merged with the outside and became one space, and when enough of me, my personality, had been dissolved and the space was what was left, I was left, and I was everything. I was the space, this space, where all this occurs. And then I explained how someone who, making a lot of noise, aren't they? I explained how someone in the physical body feels this. I am the body, the mind, the looking, the feeling. If they feel the space inside them, there isn't any substance there, there's no experience, and the mind will say there's nothing in there, there's nothing here, I'm nothing, I'm just a body. And then they'll say They're not even the body. There's nothing in there. Excuse me. And that's how I explain the two polarities between I am everything and I am nothing. Now what's happened recently with me, this person said there's a state beyond being nothing, and advised me to connect with the awareness itself. Now in the last 5 years I'd stopped doing any work. Didn't think I needed to, just enjoying life. But this person said you can go further. Once one is established enough in the space, in the being within, as their own being, once one has dissolved everything else enough, and there is just, I'll use the term nothing. The point is, if one can feel the nothing, then that means, logically, that there is something remaining separate in order to feel the nothing. It's obvious. If one can feel nothing here, over there, I can feel nothing, there's nothing there, or there's nothing here. What is it that's feeling the space of nothing? What is it that's acknowledging and identifying the absence of anything? That has to be something. I'm not playing with words here, and I'll explain what happened. Something is feeling the nothing, for it to say, I am nothing. There is a separation there, obviously. So what happened? I was advised to connect within the head, the awareness. So one night, I lay in bed, eyes closed, and I thought to myself, right, where am I? I was behind the eyes, because the eyes seemed to be in front of me. So I was somewhere in the head area. I found it difficult to pinpoint an area. I was conscious of the entire headspace, whereas this person said it's one particular point. Nevertheless, I felt that space. All that evening, that night, until I fell asleep, and every time in the night I woke up, I immediately connected with it automatically. It felt very comfortable. By the next day, automatically I was doing it. It took a little bit of effort to do it, to hold on to it, but as I was already in the space and there was nothing there before, just purely the awareness turning back on itself wasn't hard, wasn't difficult to hold. It just took a little bit of effort, but it felt solid, substantial. I felt I was doing the right thing. Again all day and that night. The next morning it was still there, and I noticed that I could sit still and look at anything, and there was a sense that simply by this awareness reflecting straight back on itself was in a sense doing something. While I'm sitting doing nothing apparently, a great deal, much was being done. The need to do was itself being done to itself. Self-satisfying. I wasn't doing anything, but the awareness was, and the need to do was almost reflecting on itself, satisfying itself. Externally, I didn't need to do anything. That evening, I noticed there was no more effort in the slightest involved in holding on to it. It has become my default state, my default experience. Just being. But being what? And this is where I got stuck, you see. This is where language began to fail me, because I was speaking with Sally, my partner. We're having our evening meal, trying to describe what had happened and what was in that moment. And I started off by saying there was no more effort or trying to hold on to it. I said it was as if the doing of it and the doer, and then I noticed and the being done were already in the same space. The doing, the doer and the done, everything was in the same moment, in the same space. There was no separation. There was no action and no activity. I said it felt like it was multifaceted, but as soon as I tried to identify any aspect, it evaporated. The words, the idea, it was like trying to pinpoint one thing was impossible. Because the moment you try to take something away from the whole disappears. The whole, the W-H-O-L-E, disappears. Then I noticed the sense of being wasn't here anymore. In the past, as I've experienced and understood the word being, something or someone was being or experiencing being, or it was doing being as an action. But that wasn't the case now. It isn't now. Because the action is already being done, doing, the doer, all in the same moment. The awareness on itself automatically. There's no sense of separation of anyone who is being. Not because there's nobody here. Because to have nothing or nobody here would mean an absence, and that is far from the point and far from the truth. And yet it's not a something, because something would mean there'd be someone or something separate to feel it, and this is immediate, and it was the word immediacy which came out as I was describing it to Sally, that there's an immediacy in this. And then I thought back to my video 2 weeks ago. I am everything and I am nothing. And I realised it was out of date already. 2 weeks ago. And although it still describes the two perspectives, I am everything and I am nothing, and it was correct at the time, and to anybody else trying to work out those two, it would be correct. It is no longer appropriate, no longer valid here for Nick Roach. Because I can't say I'm everything. And I can't say I'm nothing. Neither are correct. And almost the idea in my mind, and this is the really weird bit, I can't even in my mind now get to grips the idea of saying I am everything or I am nothing. Even the mental idea of it doesn't make sense. Because there's an immediacy in experience. The I am everything and I am nothing, the everything and nothing have merged into one. And the idea that there could be anything other than what is is ridiculous. And to try and separate them is ridiculous. And to try to describe this in any way is ridiculous. Because the moment the moment I look for a word to describe one aspect, it is reducing, restricting it, taking away the whole picture and leaving this, and it destroys the actual fact, the truth, the experience. Because the truth is, this has no words that I can find at this time. It is an immediacy. And I have no words. It's not being, as I understand the term. Someone else could use the term being to describe this and be totally accurate. But in my own historical use of the word being, this doesn't fit anymore. Because there isn't anybody or anything to be. There's no one feeling the being. It is itself. People have used the term awareness, experiencing itself. But I don't like the word awareness. Aware of what? Who's aware? I'm really struggling, because the moment I try and look at this, describe this, it's just falls down in front of me, all ideas. And yet when I stop trying to describe it, there's no more nothing. There's no more everything. And I want to say it's beyond words. And for me it is, in a moment. Beyond words. That's the nearest I can get. And to perhaps say it's all words and no words at the same time. All description and no description. Now, what will happen next, if anything, I don't even know, you see. I can't say what's next. I can't say there's nothing next. It doesn't matter. Thank you.